We're now going to dive into the wonderful dynamic world of DKMS. Yes, DKMS, Dynamic Kernel Module Support. If your kernel is going to be updated, that is intrinsically linked through to your modules. So your modules will also need to be updated. So this is where DKMS comes in to handle the upgrading and recompiling of your kernel modules. The first thing that we're going to need to do is make sure that we've got both DKMS installed and all of the prerequisites to be able to manage C files. So we're going to update our metadata, and we're going to ensure that everything is updated on our system with the upgrade, just to make sure that we've got the very latest versions of the kernel. We're going to make sure that that is loaded by rebooting, and then we're going to go through and install DKMS Build Essential, our Linux headers, they're the support files, and of course the -y to run unattended. With that done, we can then go through and create ourselves a source code directory. We're going to create ourselves our module. We can move into that directory, and don't forget about escape and dot to bring up the last argument. We're not so worried about the actual C code. This isn't a lesson in C. However, you're able to download this from the downloads page of the main course. But it's a simple module that has a couple of functions, one when we go into the module and one when we leave the module. We can create a configuration file for DKMS, and we can go through and create a make file. The make file we have to make sure is an uppercase M, and the indentation are tabs and not spaces. But again, all of these files are available to download through the course downloads. With that done, we can then go through and have DKMS build and install the module. So we can add it to the management of DKMS. We can build it, so that's going through the C compilation, and then the install, putting it in the correct location. The instructions for the build and install come from the make file that we created. Using lsmod, we can check for our module, and at the moment we've only built and installed it, so it won't be loaded. We can go through and load our module. We can see that it's loaded. Using journalctl, we're going to be able to check our log files. The option -k is looking at messages from the kernel, and -n20 is just making sure that we only see the last 20 messages. But we should be able to see the message that was generated as the kernel loaded our module. We can remove it, and guess what? We can go back to journalctl, and we should be able to see the unload message, so we can check that everything is working. But we can also verify that DKMS is actually managing this, so we can look at the DKMS status, and we can try and see what would happen if we did update our kernel by looking at the auto install. But these slides are really good to give you reference so you don't have to go back through the video. But the idea is that you're going to get some great hands-on practice now from the command line. So in our next clips, we're going to be running through some important demonstrations.